Listen. Hinges creak in doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls. Whenever candlelights flicker, where the air is deathly still, that is the time when ghosts are present, practicing their terror with ghoulish delight. There's no turning back now.
Just after sundown, when darkness creeps over the land, the dark figures lurk in the shadows, the fangs glisten in the moonlight, and the ghosts of the world become restless. We begin our journey. Join us as we travel into the world of the paranormal, the supernatural, and the bizarre. On Nightwatch, with your hosts, Todd Sheets, Chris Weisbach, and Hugh McClanahan.
And welcome to Nightwatch. I'm your host, as always, Todd Sheets, here with Hugh McClanahan.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Reed.
Greetings.
And no Chris.
No.
No Chris, man.
No. It's not even virtually here.
I know. We got some weird kind of staticky thing going on the sound here. Everybody, we're so excited tonight because I think it's becoming a tradition. We talked off the air about this. I think we're going to be having a tradition. Every December, we're going to have our next guest on the show. I'm really excited to bring you Zeena Schreck back with us. Zeena.
Hello, thank you. I guess I'm your December audio playmate.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Every December from now on, we're going to have to do catch-ups with you.
Okay, thanks. Well, thanks for having me back. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, of course. So we see that you're always doing stuff. I mean, you're so busy, and there's always something going on with you. Why don't you catch all of our friends out there up on what you've been doing recently?
Oh, boy. Yeah, the 9 lives of Zeena. Like a cat. Let me see. Well, I have my teachings that are continuous, which are at the Buddhist Center here in Berlin. And then those are private teachings. So I meet people here. And then aside from that, I'm writing all the time, and I contribute to Beatdom, which is the literary journal about beat culture, except I don't write about beat culture. I more prefer to be a contemporary beat writer. Then, aside from that, I'm working with Spencer Kanza on my biography. He's writing my biography, but I'm basically telling him my story, and then he's doing research to back it up. And what else am I working on? Oh, I'm working on my solo CD. I just released the Vinyl Solution, which is a compilation of all the Radio Werewolf vinyl recordings and a couple of extra tracks that haven't been heard.
Interesting thing, after you were on the show last time, we got so much mail from all over the world about you and about your ideas and your philosophies, and I want to touch base on some of that again for people who didn't get to hear that show. But it's kind of funny because already we just announced you were going to be on the show, and we've already had messages coming through. I forwarded you one. I know that you got. We're going to talk about that. But I've had like 20 messages come through just since we announced you're going to be on the show. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I did get a forwarded message from you. And the message is from a person named Takla Mebar, I think is his name. And the message, I'll just paraphrase some of it. I won't quote all of it. But it did, interestingly, because I had just woken up, as a yogini and in the Vajrayana Mahasiddha tradition, of course, I am very familiar with one of the things that he brings up in his message, which is the tradition of dream yoga. And that's in the direct lineage of the Mahasiddha tradition that I'm from. So when I woke up, I was thinking to myself, because of course, we hadn't really discussed specifically what we were going to talk about in this show, just sort of generally, you gave me some ideas of what you wanted to talk about, but it wasn't very precise. It was more, sort of a all-round ideas, but not specifics. But when I woke up from having this dream yoga experience, which was connecting directly to my teacher, Ayang Rinpoche. Actually, I have two teachers, but of course people are going to be listening to this all over, anywhere in the world where they may be tuning in. Maybe dream yoga and the subject of dreams is kind of appropriate. I got your email, and then, what do you know, this person talks about dream yoga.
Exactly.
So I thought, well, that's an interesting coincidence. What he asks specifically, he says, I wonder if Zeena is familiar with the bone tradition of Tibet dream yoga and dreaming as performed by the Yaqui Indians of Mexico in relation to Carlos Castaneda, Don Juan, etc., as performed by the Mahasiddhas. And he said that Carlos Castaneda had met with a Siddha, and after talking, they were sure that their systems were either closely related or from the same original school. Well, interestingly, I know that when the 16th Karmapa first visited America, and he met with a lot of the Native American tribes from different traditions, he felt himself affinity and a bond with those traditions. And I know that there are a lot of similarities in the dream work of the dream yoga in the Vajrayana tradition, in the high Anutantra dream yoga tradition, and in a lot of the American native traditions there. Now, with regard to Carlos Castaneda, here again, as you know, I can tend to be sort of a wet blanket when it comes to pseudo-religions and sects and cults and things like that. So with relation to Carlos Castaneda, I know that he is known for a lot of dream work and things like that, but I do have to throw a bit of caution into going too deeply into those waters and go there with skepticism. I would say maybe one book that I would recommend reading is The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Amy Wallace, who was one of his, you could say, students, but she also had a more intimate relationship with him. And so she writes about her experiences, but there has been a lot written about Carlos Castaneda, sort of discounting his credibility, and of course the whole Don Juan idea. So I would tend to be cautious about approaching that as an authentic system. As far as authentic systems go, though, the bone tradition, yes, and the Vajrayana, the Anutantra Vajrayana tradition of dream yoga, these are authentic traditions which can be traced through a lineage that goes, that is traceable and that is passed down generation to generation. So that's traceable. And yes, I think also the connection between the Native American tribes, their forms of dream work, I think that is very similar in nature. Another thing to remember is that mystics that work with dreams and the dream world The way we understand it is that there's no separation between the waking state and the dream state, that it's a continuation, it's a continuum, and that the primary difference is that what the dream state, in other words, what I'm trying to say is we don't regard the dream state as a kind of escapism, as a kind of place to have a fantasy world where we can interpret things in a subjective and a kind of way that suits our wishful thinking, but more we look at the waking state rather as a dream and the sleeping state as a opportunity to exercise our wakefulness.
Now, Zeena, aren't these both two sides of the same reality? Isn't that something
exactly.
that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. That's the best way to look at it, is that to not have any sentimentality about it, but that they are exactly a continuation of the same reality, just seen from different perspectives, and that in our dream state, we just see reality in a different way, but it's just as useful and just as real. It's not to be discarded. It's not to be discounted. So the things that arise in our dreams are every bit as important as the things that arise in our waking state. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of that's you're seeing them with two different sets of eyes, so to speak. Your conscious eyes and your unconscious eyes, but it's the same reality. So you're that's like a different pair of glasses you're wearing, so to speak. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. Except except actually even the glasses, you want to try to view it without any glasses and to see reality as it truly is without any filters, which then that requires a great deal of training to be able to see beyond all of the filters that we have built up over many, many lifetimes and eons. And that extends even into the dream reality. But what the dream reality can afford us is, beyond what our waking state is, the dream reality can allow us a little less of our waking state's ego's interference. So this is why the dream reality is maybe just a little bit more important, because it allows us a fertile groundwork for preparation. It's known as a Bardo state, intermediate state, or like in the SLM, I refer to it as a set amontet. It's like a way station, you could call it, an in-between state. So you could regard it as like a training ground for preparation for the great liberation. And
gotcha.
so every night when you go to sleep, you can use this time as understanding and a preparation, if you know how to train your mind, to be very aware, very awake, alert, and know how to focus at that moment when you need to have your focus at its most acute.
I don't know if a lot of people know, but our brains are actually more active during sleep than it is when we're awake.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And actually, when the circadian rhythm is such that even the activity level of our brain changes throughout the day, and that doesn't make any difference even no matter what kind of a sleep schedule we're on. For example, people who have night shift schedules, that still carries over because it's affected by the sun and the changes of the melatonin and serotonin balances. So yeah, that's absolutely true.
Is this all brought about also through your Tibetan Tantric Buddhism. I remember you were getting into that area of study, and is that kind of helping you in terms of understanding the two, like we talked about, they're two sides of one reality. Is that kind of tied in with your Buddhism and the things you're learning through that?
Oh, definitely, yes. Yeah, because in Buddhism, that's the point, is to get to the nature of the the ultimate goal is liberation and enlightenment. What that is getting to the true nature of mind, of the primordial wisdom that exists in all beings. And how you get to the primordial wisdom that exists in all beings, the true nature of mind, of being able to strip away all the obscurations that occlude and cloud and don't enable us to see reality as it truly is. How you need to do that is through these various practices that can then reveal that inner wisdom that's always there, that all beings have it. All humans have it, and even all animals have it. But we just don't know how to get to it. So, yes, it's an ongoing evolutionary process, but it's one that one needs to work at and have the self-discipline to undergo certain practices. Yeah.
I think that's true. The discipline part for real, because, a lot of people will try to, sit down and let their mind go, so to speak, and breathe and try to get themselves into kind of a self-hypnosis, trying their best to get in touch with things like this, and they just don't succeed. Whereas that's what I've always found fascinating about you is, we talk to you and we find out how incredible it is that you've succeeded in all these areas.
Yeah. Well, first of all, as I said, it's an ongoing evolutionary process. You're still constantly always working on it. You're still always, you get, the further you get, the more you realize. It's like that old saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. The further you get, the more daunting it is, and the more you realize, the further you have to go, So it's an ongoing process, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then the second part of it is you really need to have a very loving, compassionate teachers who you can place your trust in, who are very caring, who that you can look into their eye and you are in good hands. And that's very important, and it's very hard to find, in this day and age when there's so much nonsense, and there's so much, just strange things that lead you into chaotic distractions. There are so many just pseudo-religions that are really, in my opinion, nothing more than entertainment. They're a means of distractionary devices that keep people busy and keep people, like ladder climbing, especially in these organizations with degree systems. And it's always like, oh, well, when you get to this stage, then you'll know the secrets. And when you get to that stage, then maybe you can, the door will be open for you. And no, just keep stringing them along a little further and a little further. It's all baloney. It's all a means to keep you, like a hamster on a treadmill. It's something to kill time and waste time until you die, but it doesn't lead to enlightenment.
Right.
And it's also not very compassionate. It only breeds like infighting and backstabbing. It like encourages the worst of human nature. So when you have so many esoteric and occult groups that foster this kind of behavior, it's very difficult to get your mindset out of that mode of thinking and to try to find something, to try to go in a safe direction that is virtuous and that will promote something in your life that will lead to, an exit out of all of that nonsense.
One thing that you're saying that's just hitting home for so many of us is I find that so many religions, and I'm using that word, it's so terrifying because they always have the us against them mentality. It's we are correct and everyone else is wrong. Mm-hmm. It is.
Right. Yes, but I have to tell you, honestly, I don't have a problem with spiritual practices if a person just sticks to the fundamental spiritual practices which lead to enlightenment. All religions at their core have that.
Right.
It's when they branch off into politicizing, and it's when they branch off into getting into, secularization to such a degree that they don't see the forest for the trees, and they lose sight of what religion is supposed to be. Yeah. So Meister Eckhart, I'll paraphrase something he said, which is, maybe I'll get it right, I don't know, maybe I'll land on it. But it was something to the degree of, theologians may debate or bicker or argue, but mystics speak the same language. And I would extend that to saying, politicians and philosophers and theologians and secular humanists, or whatever you want to call different walks of society. They all bicker and fight and debate. But mystics speak the same language.
I like that.
And I'm a mystic. So I don't get involved in the matters of politics. I don't get involved in the matters of philosophy. I don't get involved in the matters of when religion turns political. So in that sense, I don't like it when religion is used as a device for ulterior motives.
I agree. And because honestly, in my mind, we are of one universal power. I believe in the thought that there's an energy that, connects all of us in the entire universe and all galaxies, all star systems, and also the animals of the earth. I'm very, and thank you for that letter you sent about, when I lost one of my pets. I appreciate it.
He lost another one today.
Yeah, I did.
He was really close to her.
I lost one of my babies today. I was very close. But I feel this connection on an energy level with all animals and everything. And I feel that one of the things that frustrates me about religion is they seem to try to separate that and break that energy instead of embracing it.
No, I'm very close to the animal kingdom. And, of course, that's something that appeals to me about practicing the Dharma is in Buddhism, animals, there's no separation between all beings, animals, and even the beings that are invisible to us, too, the spirit realm. Because there are many more beings that we're maybe not as attuned to be aware of, but so we're, we do prayers for the release of pain and suffering from all beings, whether we can see them or not. And that includes, of course, animals. And humans that we have had our quarrels with, because we have to remember that whatever their problem is, they're being motivated. The motivation behind whatever their problem is pain and suffering. If they do idiotic things, or if they do really reprehensible things, whatever's behind it is pain and suffering. So we always have to keep that in mind, even when their stupid behavior is directed at us. We have to just remember, well, there's some element of pain and suffering here, or this wouldn't be happening.
That's true.
So we have to remind ourselves in these practices that we do that if our aspiration is to release all beings from pain and suffering so that they can progress on their way towards liberation and enlightenment, which, as you said, and I agree with you, all beings are progressing towards their way towards liberation and enlightenment. They just don't know it yet, even if they fight it. You know, there's a lot of people, atheists or I dare say, you know, Satanists, or people who think that they're anti-religious in some way, or people who are more political than what they think religion is, or whatever. They actually would fight the idea that they're on, you know, that they're working their way towards some ultimate liberation. But actually, all beings are. You can't help yourself from it. It's a natural evolution.
I like how you were talking about the animals, because, like, I do a lot of studying about shamanism. And, of course, you know, you talk about the spirit guides, where in shamanism, you're, like, looking for that animal to connect with. Absolutely.
Everybody has one. They just don't know it. Some people are so cut off from the animal kingdom, they don't even know. I've talked to some people, they don't even have a clue what animal, and I'm looking right at them, and I can see the animal. I can see what animal they are. I can see what animal they're connected to, but they don't know it themselves because they are so cut off from nature. They've lived in concrete, you know, cities, only looking at computers all day, and they're so cut off from the natural universe. And it's really frightening. But it doesn't change anything because it's still there. It's just that they can't find it. That's what's so strange. You can't, it's just because they don't know how to find it doesn't mean it's not there.
Now, when you actually, you know, do your meditation and all, now, are you usually, when you step to that other side, kind of use the phrase, are you usually alone, or are you with your own spirit guide?
You mean my animal totem?
Correct.
I have 2 animal totems, and they're always in me. I mean, they're always a part of me. They're never separate from me. Always.
How do you find out what your animal totem is? How do you find out who your guide is?
I think it varies with people, because I think some people always know, always feel it, and then I think that, as I mentioned, some people have to more discover it. So, and that's a question of kind of sensitivity and spiritual ripening. Or you could say spiritual maturation. It's a process of, you could train somebody to bring that out in them, how to discover that.
I would like to know. I need to train myself. I need to learn that, because I have some animals I feel an affinity for, like a stronger connection to.
That's a beginning. That's definitely a beginning, what you have an affinity for. And if there are, you know, animals that have an overriding strength or power for you, then that would be a definite beginning.
He's a bat.
What would be it? What's a... Which animal did you say?
I think he's a bat. I've always thought he was a bat. A lot of people think his animal would be a bat.
I love bats. I very much so. Yeah, bats, wolves, and mice, of all things. I love them.
Yeah, well, it also can, as Amanda mentioned, it also can be what others see in you. Because, like I said, sometimes I'll be looking at a person, I'll think, I see the animal right in them, but they don't see it themselves. And that's another way of knowing too. But if you feel that, if she said a bat and you feel a bat, then maybe it's a bat. And why not? Why shouldn't it be? and you said a mouse also, but bats and mice are very similar.
Well, you know, a buddy of mine that's a shaman, he's a pretty amazing guy, Marcus Leader. He had been meeting with some very spiritual men, shamanistic leaders, things like that, and even a monk. And they were together, and they created this talisman out of a piece of rock from the area where Stonehenge is, and they created this neat talisman for me. And out of nowhere, he said he had this thing in his possession for 10 years. And this is a weird story, maybe a little longer than 10 years. And he didn't know who to give it to, and he kept waiting because something kept telling him, some kind of a guide or a vision or some feeling he had said, you don't give this to this person. It's not the right person. After he met me, he gave me this talisman, and the talisman is a bat.
Oh.
Isn't that something?
That's wild.
That may have some significance. Then you have to pay attention to signs like that. That's another thing, is learning how to pay attention to signs that you receive. Of course, in your dreams too, but also in your waking state.
He loves everything batty.
If you're a very batty kind of person, then you have to pay
That's what they're
attention
telling
to
me.
Do you hang upside down a lot?
I don't. My favorite superhero, of course, is Batman, and I've always loved bats.
No.
I travel down to Austin with my family so I can hang out with the bats. I go where the big, it's like a 2.5 million bat colony there in Austin, and I've actually been in the middle of the bats, and they've actually climbed on me, and I've never gotten bitten by them. Where I used to work had a lot too. Pretty weird.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love bats. But I love mice too.
Me too.
I love all animals. I love insects too. I love everything. Yeah, all creatures.
All creatures, great and small. That's the way it should be, though, because we are connected to them. And I wish, just today I was reading about a bunch of wolves who were killed, and it just tore my heart out because I was like, golly, don't people realize what they're doing? I mean, it just drives me mad. I know they say, well, they're going to kill the livestock. And the truth of the matter was, in 6 years, they had visited the livestock one time and taken a couple of chickens because the men had killed the elk and the deer that were normally there. So the wolves had nothing to eat. So they were kind of forced into it. And this was at Yellowstone National Park. I mean, of all places.
Wow.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's just not good.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah.
Well, that's like even around here, we have a lot of deers, but we have a lot of traffic and everything. And the highway patrolmen are taught that they can go ahead and gun down the deer, to save a motorist. But
Just
I think that's terrible.
It is. We are all connected, and we need to let people know that doing harm to this the circle of life is doing harm to yourself.
Exactly. Yes, because we're all connected. I mean, actually, that's the meaning of the word tantra, is weave. And the concept behind it is that all things, there is a connection through this greater weave, like a tapestry. But you can't see that because you're so close to it, and you actually are too close to see how everything weaves and intersects together and interconnects together. If you could only step back and see the full picture, you would see that everything is interconnected. So, of course, if you harm something else, you're going to, by default, be harming yourself.
It's true.
Because of that weave.
Exactly. And, I was thinking earlier, you talked about your music, and I was, the more I listen to you talk about this, the more excited I am about the musical prospect, because I find when you're more in tune with this energy level and this circle of life, that this thread, for lack of a better term, that weaves through the galaxy, when you're more in tune with that, I find that sometimes the music, you don't necessarily write it. The music writes itself through you like a channel.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think it'll be very different now. I'm a much older person now than I was earlier in Radio Werewolf times. And when I release my solo recordings, I'm sure there's going to be some common threads and similarities tonally. But, it'll be a reflection of the mind that I am now. And then, as you said, it'll probably, no doubt, reflect whatever it's tapping into on a greater level in the interconnectedness with all things like you're talking about. And I'm attempting to make it like a kind of medium. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. There's an artist I really love. He's a little on the darker side. His name's Mortis, and it's Mortiis. That's it, Mortis, and he does some really interesting. His early stuff, his later stuff kind of went industrial. I don't like that as much, but his early stuff was very ethereal, and he said he was tapping into a power in the cosmos, and it wrote itself. And I always thought that was interesting. And when I listened to that, you can feel this power in Mortis's early work, like the Stargate and some of his early stuff, that really is something else. I mean, you just feel a power coming through the music that you don't, once he went kind of pop and kind of started writing structured songs with, the industrial stuff. You don't feel it anymore. Very interesting stuff. So if you haven't heard Mortis, you might listen to that sometime because it's very, very strange. The funny thing is when you look at him, he kind of dresses up like a goblin.
Yeah.
That's his stage presence, but his music is just so, it's so kind of mystical.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't, honestly, I don't keep up much with new music. I'm sort of out of the loop. I'm sort of like an old fuddy-duddy. I listen to very old and classical music, or like, I guess the most contemporary is pop music from the 60s or early 70s, but I really don't keep up much with new music, or maybe that's not even new by today's standards, but yeah, I'll take that under consideration.
It's something weird. I
always feel like somebody's grandmother when somebody says, "Oh, you should listen to this," or "You listen," and I'm totally out of the loop. You'll just have to excuse me.
You're not missing a whole lot. That's the thing. I mean, everybody today sounds almost exactly the same.
Yeah, because I sort of, like I said, I trailed off a few decades ago in keeping up with what was new. So, yeah.
Before we go, and I know we're getting shorter on time here, I'd like to get all the information about, where people can get your books and where they can find out all the things they need to know about you. I'd like to get all that information out to the friends out there.
Okay, yeah. Well, the books, that's a good question. They all need to be reprinted. And so we're in the process of doing that on our own publishing company. So that's in the works. Demons of the Flesh, I'm writing a new introduction to. And that will be coming out probably in spring of next year. So that will be on our own publishing label. And you can always contact me through our contact email address, shreckinfo@yahoo.co.uk, which is also, you can also find it on my website, I'm sorry, I'm saying that in German. Let me repeat that. www.zeena.eu. And that's where you can get all the contact information. You can always write me a letter, which I love to get letters because then I can actually see the organic material that people send and the way they, put a little package together or a card or a letter or whatever. I like seeing that better. However, sometimes I write back to people and I don't know if they actually get my letter back. So if you write a letter, include an email address just in case. And I attempt to answer all letters that I get.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool, and that's also rare in this day and age. Let me tell you. So that's neat. Well, Zeena, it is always I
don't know if I left anything out, but I think that's about it for now. And until we meet again, I'd like to end with just a little dedication, like I like to conclude with all things. That whatever benefit may have come from anything in this interview, or whatever understanding or positive forces that arose, may it grow deeper and deeper and hasten all of our way to liberation and enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Om Amidewa Hri and Salem.
Very nice. Very nice. Very cool. Thank you so much, Zeena, for taking time out for sharing your wisdom with us, and we look forward to talking again.
And thank you for inviting me again.
Always. You're part of the family.
Next year.
That's right. That's right. Well, you have a wonderful evening. Or a day.
Morning.
It's a day.
Morning.
Yeah, it's
good,
a day
good
there.
night from here and good morning from there.
So you have sweet dreams.
Thank you so much. You take care.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, guys.
It was interesting that she brought up about mail. I got a bunch of letters from my mother.
Oh, wow.
I got the envelope, but no contents.
Are you kidding? Did your mom just forget to stuff it?
Nope. It got opened somehow, and
someone took it out.
Contents were lost in the mail.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
Dude,
Even more so.
here with us.
Because it's all the candy. It's all the entire, I don't know.
these guys, wolf trapping season opens December 15th, where these guys are just going to be trapping and killing, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of wolves for no reason, because the wolf is 6% away from being on the endangered list. That number, whatever the number is that gets you on the endangered list.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, I think, the wolves are just barely over that number by 6%.
Right.
Whatever that is, and I tell you what, it's breaking my heart, because we were talking about it earlier off the air, where a bunch of guys were hunting, and we've got Yellowstone Park, and then there's borders around the park. Now they don't have these huge fences like I wish they would have, but they have these borders, and if an animal walks across that border, they shoot them. Okay, now here's the thing, these wolves were not even a quarter mile over the border. They were literally hundreds of feet, maybe a couple of 100 feet over the border. They were just grazing, checking stuff out. Boom, they're shot. The problem is, these guys were special wolves that they were using. They had these tags on them, and they were using them to study their behaviors. They were also trying to find out if they actually did, come down to try to hurt humans, which they did not. They also wanted to know how many times they went after livestock, which found out it was one time because of a food shortage due to some winter problems in 6 years. So here's the thing, the whole excuse of, I want to murder this creature because it's hurting livestock or hurting a farmer was proven to be BS in this case. It was found out that a lot of people had killed a lot of extra deer and a lot of extra elk, and that's why they were hungry that one season. I understand people say there's a need for animal control when it comes to a lot of deer. They could hurt themselves or other people, jump out in front of cars, whatever. A lot of that also comes down to me with my philosophy of, well, if you didn't kill all the wolves, then they could naturally prey upon the deer. You wouldn't have to shoot the deer. And on top of that, if we'd quit cutting down every damn section of housing they have, then they wouldn't be running all over the shopping malls. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, and I got to tell you that is something is my pet peeve right there, is how wasteful of a society we have. Because when you think about it, how many abandoned buildings do we have?
Well, just in Kansas City.
Just Kansas City. How many strip malls are empty? Yet we're going to build Zona Rosa. Why can't we utilize what we already have?
That's right.
Renovated. And no, we can't do that. We got to have a brand new piece of property and cut everything down. How many houses?
It's funnier when they look just like the ones that are still standing empty.
Exactly.
That's a Kansas City tradition.
It is.
We're going to build a whole new thing, rip out about 95 acres of animal housing.
Right.
And we're going to have this shopping mall over here that looks exactly like the one we just built.
Exactly. Well, but think of how many houses are empty. How many people are homeless, but we're still going to be tearing down trees and making new ones and making more.
No,
it's like
they're empty too. All these apartments around down the road here, they're completely empty. They can't rent them.
Yeah,
there's not enough people. It's like, man,
it's a wasteful society.
They would
it's
rather
terrible.
throw a family of 5 people and their little kids at Christmas time out of their homes than they would drop their rent by $100. They kicked this family out for not being able to afford this house. And it's only $100. Maybe they're missing $50 a month. They're scraping. They're doing the best they can. But instead of dropping them down and saying, "Okay, guys, we know you're having a hard time with your house. Let's cut you a break. Let's refinance."
Even just temporarily.
That's right. Instead of doing that, they kick them out of the house. Then they turn around and sell this house for 50% of what it's worth. So the people buying it, like say the house, the family that was in it's going to pay $250,000. They'll turn around and sell that same house after they kick them out for $100,000, but they wouldn't give it to that family for $100,000. I'm for the families. I'm for the little kids. I'm for the innocent animals, because someone needs to have a voice for these guys. And you know what? If people get mad at me for thinking I'm preaching, I'm not preaching. I'm just trying to defend, because in my opinion, if we don't give voice to the innocent, and if we don't give voice to the children, if we don't give voice to people who don't have a voice, well, then what are we? We're a waste. If you have the power to reach some friends out there who can then turn around and also use their voices. So
it's a responsibility.
I have to. It's like Batman in Batman Begins. What do you do if the good people of Gotham do nothing? What can stop the evil if the good people of Gotham do nothing? Well, you know what? We need a Batman out there. We need a Batman out there for every child who's abused. We need a Batman out there for every woman who's been beaten and thrown out of or down some stairs or out of her home and can't get people to help her. We need a Batman out there for men who are laid off from their jobs and can't help their families and they're all on the streets. We need a Batman out there for the little animals who can't protect themselves. We need a Batman. That's what I'm saying. And so this is our small part of trying to help. Every once in a while we can get serious. And my word is, go forth into the world with positivity. Pay it forward. If someone's good to you, be good to someone else. you know what? If you've got $12 in your pocket and someone needs 6 of it and they're starving, give them 6 of it. That's the way I look at it. And then hopefully when you need $6, someone will pay it forward. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I try to live my life. And I got to tell you this, I have seen it in action. When I was in that hospital and I almost died, people were paying it forward. And that's what I want to see from everybody out there, because we are one, all of us. We are united. We are all members of the planet Earth, great or small, whether it's a mouse or whether it's the President of the United States. We are all one. We are all equal, and we are all the thread of life. So everybody, we're getting ready to go to break. I hope I didn't get too serious with you. When we come back, I promise to be goofy and make fun of stuff. So we're going to break, and when we come back, let's talk about health stuff. Let's talk about that. Let's all get healthy the Asian way.
Spook to you later.
Hey, this is Brian O'Halloran. You might know me from such films as Clerks, Clerks 2, Vulgar, Brutal Massacre. Yeah, anyway, I'm not even supposed to be here tonight, but you know what? You are, because you're listening to the Nightwatch.